Hey y'all, welcome back to Pancakes and Pandemonium. This is a What's for Dinner, and this is 3 easy and delicious slow cooker recipes. For our first recipe, we have red beans and rice. So first things first, we're going to get all the spices together. I have a half teaspoon of turmeric. I did 2 teaspoons of chili powder, a heaping teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder. You can just do regular chili powder if that's what you have on hand. I was working with these little spices, and next time I make it, I'll use whatever's in my pantry. Just heads up. So use what you have. I used a half a teaspoon of granulated garlic because I use squeezy garlic later. I did a teaspoon of oregano, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, a pinch of red chili flake, and I mean it's really just a pinch, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, half a teaspoon of rosemary, and then I did about another pinch of Hatch green chili flake. If you don't have that on hand, although it is really, really good, I highly recommend it, you can do 2 pinches of the red chili flake or leave it out if you feel like that's going to be too spicy for you. Oh, and then I did about a half a teaspoon of yellow mustard, and then I did later on 2 tablespoons of salt. I left out the black pepper. I felt like that would end up being way too spicy overall for my husband and kids, but if you want to add pepper, just kind of eyeball it and do what you think will work best for your family. Alright, next up, these are peppers that I already had chopped up and in the freezer, but you're going to add about a cup of chopped up bell pepper, or maybe like a half a bag if you've already got them in your freezer, or 2 bell peppers if you have them fresh, and then a pound of red beans. And then next, as you can see, I'm just filling up the crock. You need about 8 cups of water, maybe a little more. For me, it's just easier to carry it over to the sink and fill up. Now, if you've seen my shopping hauls, you remember a while back, it had been really hard to find ham hocks, but I did have this ham shank. It was still pretty frozen. I had to defrost it a little bit, and here I'm adding the salt. I was at the end of my salt, but it's about 2 tablespoons worth of salt going in here. And you also saw I have the andouille sausage to the side. I personally don't like the texture of that type of smoked sausage cooking all day. It gets mealy and weird, so it needs to defrost. So it's out, but I stuck it in the fridge after this to defrost for the rest of the day, and then I stick it in the last hour or 2 of cooking, and 10 hours on low all day, and then we make rice that evening and serve it, and we have a delicious dinner. I am sorry for the poor quality at the end of the meal here. I had a migraine, and my husband filmed it on his phone, and he doesn't have an Apple phone, but he filmed it for me. But everybody loved it. It was delicious. Okay, and next up is Spaghettios with meatballs. This was my first time using the Aurora multi-pot, which I love it, and I am happy to have a multi-cooker again. I really, really was missing my old one. There's a couple learning curves with it, but it's pretty similar, caught on pretty quickly. So you will definitely notice some differences in this recipe from my other Spaghettios recipe, and that is because it started off that it was supposed to be a spaghetti and meatballs recipe, and then we realized in the middle of it that we didn't have any other kind of pasta but Theo's. So it is what it is. But it worked out great and the kids were happy with it. So, you know, you do what works, right? So we started off with some olive oil and some garlic, of course. And then I added, and that's about a tablespoon of the squeezy garlic. And then I added some of the Trader Joe's umami seasoning, which works really, really well in this type of recipe. And then I added about a teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of thyme. If you want to just add a couple teaspoons of Italian seasoning, if you have that instead, that would totally be fine. You know, it's just, this is what I have, so this is what I used. At some point, I am going to go through and make some seasoning mixes, though. And then I added a teaspoon of onion powder and a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I added a pinch of crushed red pepper, some tomato paste, and then the canned tomatoes. Let all of that work together. And then I decided to add in some broth. So I did the Better Than Bouillon, 2 teaspoons. It sticks to those spoons like you wouldn't believe, you guys. And then I just put it directly in the sauce and then add the water. So I did 2 teaspoons and then 2 cans of warm water, stirred that together. And then comes the fun and funny part. So I was going to shake in about a half a container of Parmesan, and as you see, it kind of had a mind of its own. So I ended up adding a whole container. It's about a 5-ounce container, so it's fine. And you know, it's Spaghettios, so it's supposed to be kind of a fun dinner anyway. But yeah, stirred that all in, you know, let it kind of start working and do its thing, and then it was time to add the meatballs. So just kind of mix them in, and then that just needs to cook a few hours on high. And then we just add the O's, probably about the last hour and a half of cooking. And then boom, you guys, easy, delicious dinner that makes everybody happy. And yep, I lost the footage of the final picture. I'm sorry about that. And then last we have our creamy meatballs and mushrooms. So we start off with olive oil, and then I added a 16-ounce container of mushrooms. So I have one kid that loves mushrooms, one kid that hates mushrooms, and 3 that are pretty indifferent to mushrooms. Like, they can take them or leave them. So it is what it is. If they'll eat them, I'll cook with them, and then, you know, it really makes my kid who loves mushrooms feel seen. So, and the kid that doesn't care for them can pick them out, and it's fine. So, you know, I really like the multi-cooker for these types of dishes because I can kind of start cooking the mushrooms and saute them, let them start cooking, which is really, really nice. I also like it because I'm going to add tomato paste. And as you guys have heard me say in other dishes, I really like it when tomato paste has a couple minutes to cook and that flavor develops. It is really nice and it does something special. So, you know, being able to work with this method with this saute method in the multi-cooker is really nice. And we're just using a little bit of tomato paste, about a tablespoon worth, and now I'm adding the beef broth, and I'll add some water later. This is not a tomatoey dish, but giving that tomato paste a couple minutes to develop in here before we slow cook it just gives it a really nice savory flavor with those mushrooms. This was a really delicious dinner. So we started adding the other ingredients at this point. 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup, and then I added 2 cans of water and a can of half and half. So, and then I added about a tablespoon of Trader Joe's onion salt, about a tablespoon of garlic. So this dish hit the spot. It was just soul warming, you know. And it was just one of those nights where we just had this super lovely warming dish, and everybody was curled up on couches and in chairs and talking and laughing, and it was just dinner time perfection. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got some great dinner time inspiration. Please come back. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.